Yeah, good morning, and good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I know we've got audience from across the world, and it's my honor. My name is Neeraj Sharan, and on behalf of Bitosa Global, which is the alumni body of BIT Mesra, invite all of you to this CoviClave session 4, which is a mental wellness. And the honor is that we have such distinguished experts in this field, Dr. Simi and Rajshree Sarda with us, with special guest Guneet Swani. Thank you for getting them here with us. And I'll just take about a minute to brief you as to what our journey has been so far in our COVID impact as well. So we are an alumni association of about 25,000 people across 44 countries, multiple chapters. We are a very strong presence on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook. We go live this session on YouTube, LinkedIn. We'll archive it on our website as well. On the 30th of April, we all realized that all of us were doing individual work to support COVID and whatever we could. And on the 30th of April, we came together as an alumni across the world and created what we call the COVID War Room. And we have over 250 volunteers right now working tirelessly for the last 1 month. We raised money. We are bringing in all kinds of support system, from oxygen supply systems to cylinders to family support, financial package, telemedicine, counseling, medication, and the continuity of that. So this is another of the things we are doing as part of the COVID support group. And I would at this time welcome Guneet to please introduce the distinguished speakers today. And then from there onwards, it'll be my colleague Ayush, who is the Vice President of Bitosa Global Delhi, who will moderate the panel over the entire evening. I have only one line before I say, I know this is very relevant to today's talk, is that someone said that the only journey is the journey within. And today's subject is so much around the journey within. And so we are really, really looking forward to getting some insights and tools to manage our lives better and actually become more impactful than we were. So Guneet, thank you so much for being with us again, Guneet. Over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Neeraj. Keep beaming, Bitosa. Absolutely brilliant work. And we have Dr. Simi here with us. She's an iconic figure in the field of psychiatry, and she's played a significant role to shape the understanding of mental illness in her very effective techniques, which are truly diverse. And she has led to thousands of patients to live a freedom of mental illness-free lives. And her analysis of the human mind is beyond words. Thank you, Dr. Simi. It means a lot for us, for you to be here today. Thank you. And we also have Rajshree Sarda, a renowned therapist who has been bringing sadness to gladness into lives of many for many years now. Her expression of human motivation is impeccable. She has been a role model for many parents, students, faculty, and she has been adding great sway in our society with her expertise in therapy. Thank you, Rajshree, for being here. Much, much gratitude. Over to you, Neeraj.
Thank you, Guneet. Okay, Ayush, it's all yours, your evening.
Thank you, Neeraj bhai. And thank you to Simi and Rajshree and Guneet for being here. And special thanks to you, Guneet, for bringing these people, distinguished people on board for us to hear what they have. I hope I am audible to everybody.
Right? Most welcome, Ayush. A pleasure indeed.
Yes, you are. You are.
Thanks. I would just add on a little what I read about Dr. Simi, right? I never knew that psychiatry has got so many flavors. There is a geriatric psychiatry, uh, 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 there is an addiction psychiatry, there is a neuropsychiatry, and there is a psychiatric rehabilitation. We always thought that psychiatry is only about psychiatrists, right? So many flavors we were totally unknown to. So Dr. Simi, typically people have two words which they are very common when they hear. One is a psychiatrist and the other is a psychologist. We as laymen often have a very blurred distinction between these two words. So my opening question to you would be that if you could throw some light on what these two different worlds are, or are they the same world with two different names? And a follow-up question on this would be that uh, a visit to a psychiatrist in our society today is typically a covert visit, or it is not shared openly that I visited a psychiatrist. So what do you feel is a role of a psychiatrist in this kind of a situation, or in this kind of a society, to bring in a good mental health?
Yes, thank you, Ayush. That's a very relevant question. And thank you, Guneet, for your glowing words. I mean, I definitely don't deserve them, but to come to Ayush's question, see, basically we work together as a team, psychologists and psychiatrists. So psychiatrists are basically doctors who then go ahead to do their MD, just like you do MD in internal medicine or pediatrics, you would do it in psychiatry. And so you work together in a team. I mean, in India, unfortunately, because of the lack of the mental health budget, you have very small teams mostly, but maybe in the future they are going to grow. But in hospitals abroad, you have a big team of clinical psychologists, you have a team of social psychologists, you have psychosocial workers, and then you have psychiatrists. Even in private practice, both work together as a team. So a lot of times the psychologists will do some of the therapies and the testings, and then the psychiatrists are the one who will maybe do an initial assessment and see what the person really requires. And some psychiatrists, of course, do their own therapies, but typically they can prescribe medication. So that is it. About the stigma, again, I think that's changing a lot. And in big cities, at least, it's not so much of an issue. And even in smaller cities, we are seeing the change, because there is a lot of exposure now in India from, there are a lot of people who return from other countries, and they see that, it's okay to talk about mental health. In fact, if Sigmund Freud himself was a neurologist, and unfortunately, some of the theories that he propounded were a bit, some of them are very relevant still, but some were a little far-fetched. So, that's where the dichotomy started. But I think eventually neurology and psychiatry would maybe merge again in the near future, because there's so much research going on, and it's been seen that most things are biological, and there are changes in the cells and everything. Some of it I'll just show you in the PPT. So I hope that answers your question somewhat.
Absolutely, Dr. Simi. Thanks so much.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and see the PPT.
Yeah, I'll just start right away. So just coming, because today we're just talking about COVID and how it's impacted us in these last 2 years, and may continue to do so maybe for another year or so. I think it's, been a huge change in so many people's lives. There's been such a big economic impact. There's been such a big and huge social impact on families, on children. So just talking a little bit about it and how to build better mental health also. So a lot of things have cropped up during these times. We have seen that because of the social isolation, because of increased screen time, uh, children are spending a lot of increased screen time because they have to attend online classes. People are working from home without the social interaction that they had in their offices. A lot of older people are also spending more screen time because that's how they can get to connect with children through video calls and through even watching the news and spending time alone at home, sometimes not even stepping out of the house, uh, has led to a lot of increased screen time. Then there has been a lot of increased anxiety about health. So you see that, whenever there's any huge impact like the Great Depression that happened in America in the 1930s, and then whenever there's a time of strife or war or any major such event like the partition possibly, there are a lot of increased anxiety, depression, and because this is a disease, so somehow anxiety about health has increased a lot. So people come with a lot of breathlessness, with a lot of palpitations, with chest pain at times, even when they do not have COVID. So that has increased even in people who have not had COVID, people who have COVID, and people who've recovered from it. Then, there have been reports of increased domestic violence because of more people spending more time at home. Then there's also increased substance abuse in some people because of maybe increased stress, maybe losing their jobs, and also again having more time spent at home instead of going to work. Then the financial and job uncertainty that is there. So all these things can lead to various mental health issues like stress, anxiety, depression, insomnia, even anger and fear. And prolonged grief is another thing that we're probably going to see in the future. But right now we have seen a lot of grief because people are not able to grieve over people they have lost due to COVID. And even while they're ill, at times they're not able to meet them. And, that is another big factor. So grieving, when you grieve over someone, you hold the person, or you collectively get together as a family and you cry over the person, you remember the person, you laugh together, you cry together. So that is also a kind of a ventilation, and it helps in resolving the grief. But that is something that is not happening now. And we are probably going to see a lot of this in the future. So I would say vulnerable populations, I have written practically everything: children, teens, elderly, but practically everyone is involved. But for children, it's a huge thing because they can't go to schools. They're locked at home. At times, some parents are even scared to let them out of the house, even though you don't really get COVID by going and playing a game outside. If you're just playing it, with the family members, or just going for a walk or cycling together. The elderly, of course, have also had to face a huge change because they were told that they are the ones who are more prone to it. And a lot of children were worried and they would insist that the parents stay at home. So, suddenly people had to change their entire routine. So, I've just given a couple of examples how this woman working from home had to ensure that her kids attend classes, attend to her work, and then deal with the husband and with the home. She talks to her husband who is not cooperating with her. And by the end of the day, she's overworked, overwhelmed, and irritable. So she'll end up shouting at the children. She'll be irritable, stressed out. Then is the 16-year-old who's constantly stuck at home. She lives far away from friends, so can't meet them. She spends a lot of time on her laptop and sleeps late, wakes up late, attends classes and falls right back to sleep. She's unable to keep up with work and has stopped interacting at home too. However, there is this 65-year-old man who would play cards all day and walk with friends every day, but now he stays at home. He has tried, and he, tried regularly for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and finally he started doing a Sudoku puzzle. He got the hang of it. He learned how to do video calls on his phone and started calling up his children. He started helping his wife with cleaning some dishes and stands with her while she's cooking. They play a game of rummy also together during the day. So this is a person who has managed to cope quite well. Then is a 17-year-old boy who, along with his friends, started an online vaccination promotion concept. He also exercises at home 5 to 6 days a week and has started baking once or twice a week. So what is it that makes these people different? Why do some people end up having a lot of stress and why do some people not have it? A lot of factors are involved in this. We can say, okay, personality. We can say maybe some parenting, where some parents give responsibility to their children at a young age, and also they listen to their children, they give their opinions importance. We could say maybe it's a brain's biological ability to adapt to situations, and some brains are able to adapt and others are not. So can we increase this adaptability? Now over here in this diagram, I've just given this diagram just to show you that when your brain is functioning optimally, basically what happens is that your prefrontal cortex, that's the bluish purple area in this diagram. So this controls your amygdala. So amygdala is the part of the brain that has the seat of emotions. And this has a feedback control on it. So anytime we are starting to get too upset, we're starting to get too anxious, our prefrontal cortex exerts a feedback control. It's kind of like your rational brain, which tells your emotional brain that, okay, take it easy, sit on this for today, think about it tomorrow morning, just drop it for now. It's upsetting, but you can deal with it or whatever. And this is when the brain is functioning optimally. What happens in chronic stress? So chronic stress can damage the connection between the prefrontal cortex and the amygdala. And it's like kind of taking the brakes off the alarm system of the brain, and this leads to anxiety. Having a stronger prefrontal network can protect against the negative effect of chronic stress. So how do we build up a stronger prefrontal network? So first step would obviously be becoming aware and taking measures to counter the stress. So this is just a diagram where the prefrontal cortex, the grayish area in this diagram, is no longer exerting that feedback control on the amygdala. So when the amygdala is firing, there's nothing to kind of calm it down, and therefore it goes all out, and a person can have a panic attack, a person can have severe anxiety, a person can have an anger bout or a temper tantrum. So all these things can be there. This again is a simple diagram, but again it's to show that chronic stress can cause release of ghrelin. Ghrelin is a peptide which is there in the gut, and there's so many. This is just one of the factors. There's so many other factors that are released. Cortisol is released, adrenaline is released, noradrenaline is released. And these can cause anxiety, depression. They can cause binge eating. They can cause craving for alcohol and or drugs. Like someone was telling me today that they quit smoking, but because of the stress they faced in a particular situation, again, he felt the craving to have that. So, while some people are naturally optimistic, just like some are naturally thin, others have to work at it. So learning to identify and change one's maladaptive thoughts, that is thoughts that can make us feel low, depressed, angry, can help in changing the way we perceive situations. And I really think this should be taught in schools, you know, life skills, how to deal with situations, how to deal with a situation when someone is bullying you, how to deal with a situation when you're losing your temper. So, you know, these are just some of the things that we need to work on. Now, a lot of people talk about meditation. So, how does meditation help? Um, See, your brain structure is very plastic. It's like a muscle. You can strengthen it or you can weaken it. You know, I'm a person who, in my young age, unfortunately, I never exercised much. I mean, I would, of course, do my PT in the morning because I was in a boarding school, and play your game in the evening. But otherwise, I wouldn't really exercise much in college or thereafter. But then after 35, 40, I realized it's something I need to do. And after that, I'm trying to be regular with it. And so far, I'm kind of succeeding at it. Even if I give it up for 2, 3 days, then I go back to it. So this is something, again, plastic. I mean, you can build up your muscles if you are regular, even at a certain age. You know, even at a later age, there is some building up of muscle that will occur. It's not completely hopeless. So your brain is also like that. है ना? So what does meditation do? Meditation can be different. It can be just doing part for someone. It can be just walking in the park and japping your mala for some people, if you're focusing completely on that. Or it could be mindfulness meditation, where mindfulness meditation is when you're focusing on your breathing. So if you take 2 minutes to just focus on your breathing, your normal breathing, the air coming into your nose, as you're inhaling, you just feel it. And as you're exhaling, you feel the air coming out of your nose. And even if you just do this for, say, 2 minutes or 3 minutes, that's also sufficient, as long as you're just focusing on that. And if you get distracted by something, again, you bring your attention back to that. So next time you're, maybe stuck in a traffic jam or something, instead of getting hassled, if we can just do that for 2, 3 minutes, it could be a good way to deal with that situation. So what does meditation do? Meditation helps by, it actually changes your brain structure a little bit. And so these are some of the brain structures: the prefrontal, dorsal prefrontal cortex, medial prefrontal cortex, the insula, amygdala. So the activity in the amygdala decreases, your prefrontal cortex network gets strengthened. So, but again, one has to be a little regular with this. I mean, if we go to the gym, you need to be regular with going to the gym or working out. That will build your muscles, not going for 1 week or 2 weeks and then giving it up. So about stress inoculation, these days, I think this is really important, that some stress in your early life can make us more resilient to later life stresses. So resilience is basically the ability to bounce back from stress due to maybe your personal qualities or personality. How do people do this? They're able to focus on the solution and not the problem. They're able to have some coping mantras automatically, like, it's okay, it's not the end of the world, or tomorrow is a new day. So tomorrow is a new day, of course, is one of my favorite quotes because it's from Gone with the Wind, right at the end of the book, when Scarlett O'Hara, everyone leaves her and she just says, okay, well, tomorrow is a new day. So understanding that ups and downs are basically a part of life and they're inextricably woven. Why I've written the Krishna smile here is because Krishna just smiled when Gandhari told him that, you will die a bad death, and because of you were responsible for this war, and he just smiled. So it's maybe an acceptance that, okay, what will happen, then you can't really prevent it from happening. So, facing your fears again involves the prefrontal cortex. And sometimes the courage is the quiet voice at the end of the day saying, I will try again tomorrow. So maybe some people, if they try and speak up in a group again and deal with their social anxiety, maybe if they write a poem, even if only they like it and no one else likes it. And maybe if they think that what is the worst that can happen. So these are some of the things that people can do. Of course, exercise, how does it help? It actually grows new connections between your brain cells. The synaptic connections between your neurons increase. One of the reasons is BDNF, that's brain derived neurotrophic factor. So that is something that increases with exercise, with adequate sleep, with managing your stress level well also helps to increase BDNF. BDNF is a protein in the brain which increases synaptic connections. So I think these tough times that we are facing can teach us the value of what we have: family, friends, food. They can teach us some resilience. And therefore, I think it's really important for children to be able to ask them, what have you learned from these 2 years? And what are the things that, have helped you at this time? So ask also what you can learn from this. Practicing gratitude daily is very useful. I'm thankful for food, shelter. I'm thankful for what I have. And doing that with your children is also really important, and doing that with the family. People who have a routine, I remember my grandfather who would wake up exactly at a particular time, walk exactly at 6 a.m. And, you could time your watch by his walk and start his car and keep it started. And then, of course, he would not use his car, he would use a scooter. So at 7 a.m. So people who have a routine, that really helps them, because they know then what they are going to do the next time, the next half an hour or the next minute. Even, taking out a little time for themselves in that routine, maybe just sitting and drinking their tea alone for some time outside and watching the outside. So all these kind of things help. Of course, being kind to others. Start with your own family, paying a compliment to someone, smiling at them, saying thank you. Those things can help a lot. Being in touch with the, why this being in touch is really important, because it's something that has been seen in a long-term study. The study was done over 73 years in Harvard sophomores. And it was seen that the one thing that really helped a long and healthy life was having good relationships. So people who have a good social circle and good relationships or hobbies tend to live a happier and healthier life. Recognizing your stress early, that's really important, and not delaying it. Just like you don't want to catch your illness when it's already 6 months into the illness. You want to catch it early so that you can get it treated early. So recognizing stress early is important, talking to a friend, a therapist, and being regular with that. So just like we don't ignore fever, we don't need to ignore stress. And these are things we need to talk about with our children, because, unfortunately, children are going to face a huge amount of stress in the next 20, 30 years. Studies right now show that adolescents and youth are facing unprecedented stress. And a lot, up to 20 to 30% of them actually can get clinical anxiety and clinical depression. So we need to talk to them about mental health, just like now we're talking in schools about child abuse, child sexual abuse. So we need to talk about all this. Hana? Playing new games, of course, avoiding speculation and rumors, avoiding excess phone time, and committing to daily exercise. Have a buddy you can call and take a break if you're feeling overburdened. Dealing with criticism adequately. So these are some of the mantras that I think people can have. One of my favorite mantras is take it one day at a time. And so take it today and we'll think about tomorrow. You know, each day is a new day with I think it's really important to have a mantra for yourself, or two or three. So if one can write down 2-3 mantras for yourself, mine are basically take it one day at a time. Nothing is that serious, and nothing is the end of the world. And each day is a new day. So I think each one of these helps me. And it's really important to have these. You have to think what is yours. So I'll just, stop now. So some of the things Rajshree Sarda ji can talk about how to maybe do deep breathing and relaxation, which are also very helpful. These are some of the techniques: square breathing, abdominal breathing, which are very useful because they actually relax you. They actually slow down your heart rate. They act on the parasympathetic nervous system and reduce your heart rate and reduce anxiety. And that's why we teach deep abdominal breathing to many people. Even during pregnancy, women are taught deep abdominal breathing because so that at the time of the delivery, they can practice it and stay more calm. So I think maybe I've taken too much time.
Absolutely wonderful session, Dr. Simi. It was such a good articulated session. You know, you talked right from being self-disciplined to practicing yoga, which most of the people, they claim they do, but most of the people don't do also, right? And then you are talking about the mantras of life, which are very essential for bringing in the mental strength, you know, because whatever you said was talking about how you can build in your mental strength, and the mental strength would lead to a good mental life, a balance. Thank you so much, Simi, for such an exciting session. I'm sure there will be a lot of questions. I have some questions for you, but I would park it. I would like to bring in Rajshree Sarda ji onto this talk. Just for everybody, I would just say a few words about Rajshree ji. She is a columnist. She writes a lot. She has her own columns in papers like Hindustan Times and Indian Express. What I hear and what I have read is that she is an authority on parenting. So she has got a lot of videos. She has got a very vibrant Facebook page, which she maintains, and she talks a lot about how a good parenting will impact the mental health of the child. So Rajshree, coming to you, I have a question for you. Talking about mental health, we always say that parenting has a very, very important role in building up a society. So, and parenting, you have also always related to the mental health. So I would want to ask you a question on behalf of the community, that what is the role of parent in bringing up a good mental health and building up a society ultimately? And a follow-up question on to you would be that parenting is all about giving good, what we understand is a good parenting to the child can be given by parents who are mentally calm, mentally strong. So in this era of COVID, and what we also saw in Dr. Simi's presentation, dealing with stress, dealing with irritable husbands, dealing with financial losses, job insecurities, how do you think young parents, how would this scenario impact their parenting? Over to you, Rajshree.
Good evening, everybody. And thank you, Shalu, Guneet, for having me over as one of the panelists. Thank you so much. And,
most welcome. Pleasure, pleasure.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I wish you asked me about parenting. Yes, parenting definitely has a decisive role in the kind of personality that your child is going to get. Because there's something like the inner child of the past, the kind of parent you have been, and the kind of child you're likely to get, and the kind of parents you've had, and the kind of person you've turned out to be. Now, in simple language, for example, if you are a very coercive kind of a parent, which is, coercive is somebody who's a little dominating, telling the child, do this, do that, when did you get up, have you brushed your teeth, whom did you talk to? If you're constantly going to be asking these kind of questions repeatedly in a stressful, anxious tone, more chances are that your child is going to be a little quiet, will not be able to initiate any activity because the child is not confident. The voice has to come from behind to tell the child, get up, start doing it. He starts dawdling, he's resentful because the mother is doing so many things for the child and reminding that when he goes to school and he doesn't get this kind of a treatment, the child becomes automatically unhappy. Similarly, like over-coercive, there's also submissive kind of parenting, where parents give everything to the child and the child doesn't know the difference between right, wrong, and not so right. And the parent does most of these things in the garb of loving the child, that if I don't agree to what he likes, I might lose his affection. So it's a vicious cycle. We have so many examples of spoiled brats we read in the newspaper. Probably they could be products of parents who've been extremely submissive. They're very good at throwing temper tantrums and using emotional blackmail. If you don't give me this, I'm not going to talk to you. Now the parents start doing it and they keep giving a pat to themselves on the back that I'm a good parent. I love my child so much that whatever he asks and I give him. No, that's wrong. The child needs to know the boundaries, but we make these mistakes. Similarly, there are also punitive kind of parents who are exceedingly strict. Long lectures, harsh moralizing, bhashan, jise hum Hindi mein bolte hain, and hitting the child, using corporal punishment to teach him desirable behavior. They believe that, oh, till you don't hit the child will never understand what is important. Let the child struggle. And they can use any kind of psychological abuse, sarcasm, to get the kind of desired behavior from the child that they want. Wrong. Under no circumstances should any parent be punitive or use corporal punishment to teach him desirable behavior. Now, a child who's raised in a family like this, in a punitive home, is likely to have two kinds of personalities. The one is that of a rebel, that dad, you want to hit me? Hit me. Let me become big and I'll get back even. There's no learning taking place here. And the other side of the personality of a child is going to be that of a dormant, passive, backbencher, never raising the hand in the class and answering. He's like a rat, hiding behind the sofas, hiding behind the curtains. And he keeps talking to himself. My mom loves me. And if she says I'm a daft, I'm a dodo, I must be one because my mother loves me. He starts behaving like that. Now, I don't know, you could be surprised to know that most of the people we see in the prison homes or in the juvenile homes are products of abusive homes, punitive homes, drug abuse, substance abuse, any kind of abuse. That's not good for anybody. So for me, parenting for sure plays a predominant role, because if you're an aware parent, you would be able to identify your child if he's showing any untoward behavior. It could be a child who's extremely timid, who's extremely shy, who could be even somebody who's getting bullied or somebody who's bullying too much. Anything in excess, the parents need to be aware. They need to be in touch with the school, with the school counselor, with the coordinator, all the time. Anything that they see different, it's important to discuss it with the right people. Now, what the problem with us is that we end up discussing all these things with our friends. They have little knowledge themselves. So they're not able to give you the kind of advice that they should be getting. So I always tell everybody, please talk to the right person. They would know your child. The only place where a child's personality is getting shaped, apart from home, is the school. So the importance of school plays a big role while the child is growing up. And even your teacher would be able to give you a good feedback about your child if he's going off the track, or if he's low, or if he's not talking, is absolutely quiet. So these are important signs. Also, I wanted to talk a little about general depression happening with people from the best walks of life. You all remember about Sushant Singh Rajput, who died last year. It was heartbreaking, but the kind of response he got from everybody, from all walks of life, makes me believe that even though most of us didn't know him, but he felt like one of ours. And it also means that all of us at some level have begun to understand and have the need for mental health to be addressed and discussed. So let me share with you what I know of depression and how to recognize it and handle it, your own or of somebody you care about. People ask me, why did Sushant do what he presumably did when he had supposedly everything? He had charisma, he had success, he had money, fame, all achieved by him single-handedly. Now, we as a whole are ignorant about mental health. And for a lot of us, going to a therapist is a sign of craziness. Wrong, wrong, wrong. Now, these are trying times, extremely trying times, and it's been going on for more than a year now. All of us, including me, I'm sure have felt hopeless at various times. Now, during these uncertain times, we have all had thoughts varying from not knowing when this pandemic will end to the other extreme of thinking if this pandemic will ever end at all. Also, mental health is not a figment of our imagination. Stop thinking about it and it'll go away. No, this is like telling a patient with cough, hey, stop coughing and it'll go away. It doesn't work like that. We go to a physician when we have a physical ailment. We go to a lawyer if there's a legal dispute, a CA to sort out our finances. So what's the big deal if we go to a counselor to get clarity of our thoughts and of our actions? I'm going to share some stats with you, statistics. This is not to cast an overview of gloom, but it is with the intention that we all are aware of what we are discussing, because only then can we address it properly. According to a research study reported by Economic Times, 338 non-COVID deaths were reported in India within the first 45 days of the pandemic, that is last year. Primary reasons cited were loneliness and fear of testing positive. Deaths due to withdrawal symptoms, caused most commonly by sudden shutdown of liquor shops, exhaustion, starvation, and financial distress. The BMC Empower One mental health helpline for Maharashtra. You'll be surprised that they received 45,000 calls within the first 2 months of the pandemic. Of these, 82% of the callers complained of anxiety, isolation, uneasiness, and depression. Now, in the absence of adequate assistance or the means to seek assistance, people have drifted to more harmful coping mechanisms, which is really sad, like substance abuse, addiction, and violence. The only thing I'm paranoid about as a parent of my children and, an aunt to my lot of nephews and nieces is substance abuse. The continued neglect of mental health has been repeatedly attributed to stigma and unawareness around it. So what is depression? Guneet rightfully said in the beginning, and I'm just going to repeat. In simple words, it means when your sadness does not get converted into gladness for a period of 15 days or more at a stretch, then there's more to it. Depression never gets built inside a person in a day. Please, depression, I repeat, does not get built inside in a person in a day. It takes many days, months, even incidents, behaviors that contribute to building up this time bomb. I call this time bomb for the simple reason that the person who's depressed, he doesn't even know a lot of the time that he's so depressed, and the people around also do not understand it. Psychologists have identified few common factors that reappear in depressive people over and over again. Lack of meaningful and positive social connections, a feeling of being misfit or a wrong piece of puzzle in the world. These people go out, but they're never able to fit in or belong anywhere else. Loss of interest or pleasure in doing activities that they earlier enjoyed. Other symptoms may include changes in sleep, appetite, energy level, concentration, anxiety, self-esteem, or fearing looking at death. Now, if anybody you know or you're close to are having these kind of symptoms, please do not ignore them. If your mood does not improve or it gets worse, please seek professional help as fast as you can. If you need medication, don't even hesitate to take them. So now I'm just going to tell you something about the easy steps, how to help ourselves, and second, how do we help the people we really love. Now, some tips. Most of it, Simi ma'am has already talked about it. I'm not a patch to what she's been doing. She's far more learned than I am, and she can do everything that I do, but I can't do everything that she does. But yet I'll repeat myself briefly. Now, some tips are, take breaks from watching, reading, or listening to news stories. Stop it for some time, including those on social media. It's good to be informed, but hearing about the pandemic day in and day out is upsetting for the fittest person also. Consider limiting news to just a couple of times in a day and disconnecting from phone or TV and computer screens for a while if it's not important. If it's a class or if it's work related, then what I've said doesn't apply. 2, take care of your body. Take deep breaths, stretch, meditate. Try to eat healthy, leafy, green vegetables, well-balanced meals. They're very simple to hear. And they're not so difficult to do either. We just tend to overlook them. Exercise regularly. Get plenty of sleep. At least 8 hours of undisturbed sleep you need to be healthy, to be alert the next day. Avoid excessive alcohol, tobacco, and substance abuse. Continue with routine preventive measures by your healthcare provider. And off late, get vaccinated with a COVID-19 vaccine whenever available. Now make time to unwind, pursue an activity. I know these times you can't join the gym, you can't go for your dancing or your Zumba classes, you can't visit friends, but connect with them if that is the only way, even if it's through your mobile or through the computer, through the laptop, any which way. You need to do it, especially if you're feeling low. Connect with others, talk with people you trust about your concerns and how you're feeling. Here I'd like to add one thing. When you're feeling low and you need to discuss something with others, you have certain issues going on in your head. Choose the right people, please. Don't talk to anybody and everybody randomly, because what you've told quite a few people, they're likely to talk to others, and then it just becomes a vicious cycle. So choose the people you really trust and who can actually help you. Connect with your community or faith-based organization. It could be chanting, it could be meditation, it could be, if you follow any, going to mandir, anything. Yes, social distancing measures need to be in place. So you can even connect online or through social media or by phone or by mail. But remember, pandemic will get over. When it gets over, you could start doing these things. Now also focus on all the things we still have. Sooner or later, things will change, like I just said. We will have a better understanding of diseases tomorrow. And also today, we are getting a better understanding than we ever had. Patience is a good virtue to learn today and forever. Would you want me to say something about tips for your loved ones? Should I say that?
Sure.
Okay. Okay. Am I going to, I hope I'm not going too fast.
No, absolutely fine.
Okay,
absolutely
thank you, Ayush.
Fine.
Thank you, Ayush. It's nice to hear that. Okay, now some tips to help our loved ones. Is talking just before someone takes the final dreaded step the correct approach? Aren't we approaching this problem from the wrong end? Why let a person or yourself reach the detonation point in the first place? So what do you need to do? Offer help before expecting them to reach out. You know your friends, you know them, you love them. They may not be your best friends, but if you know about it, do something. Be a caregiver. They might feel afraid that they're being judged or they're being sermonized. Doesn't matter. Do your job. And when you do that, you're going to feel so good about yourself. If you're a strong, positive person, spot the shades of melancholy or sadness. Meet these friends, text them, send them highs. Once in a while, send them flowers or cakes. The person feels important, wanted. Very, very important for a person who's feeling low. Give attention to them. Listen, listen, listen to what they might have to say. Encourage them to use social media less. Social media is all about comparisons. Somebody is better, somebody is richer, somebody is prettier, somebody is earning more. Not good. Not good for anybody. Even for people who are in the best of health, even for them, it's not the best. What else? Yeah, if it's a child or an adolescent, teach children, school-going children, college children, life skills. Life skills are something that we underestimate, especially the parent community, because all parents love the idea that, oh, I'm such an indulgent parent. मैं कितनी अच्छी हूँ, मैंने अपने बच्चे को हर चीज दे दी. So I'm good. Little do we realize that we're not even empowering them, because when they become big and they go into the outside world, they wouldn't know how to initiate an activity. They wouldn't know how to pursue an activity क्योंकि उन्होंने कभी सीखा ही नहीं. Now this child, if it's a child, when he goes to school and he wants to talk to his ma'am, his ma'am talks to him for 2 minutes because she has 20, 30 children more. And then she starts talking to other children. And this child talks to himself that my mom is so nice. She listens to me for hours. And mom says, your teacher is like your mother, but she's not like my mother. She hardly gives me 2 minutes. Now, this is the time when parents need to explain that to children, that there are other children in the class who need teachers' attention as well, and that you should learn to do things yourself also. It's okay if they fall. It's okay if they get minor hurt. It's important that they make mistakes while they're young. Then when they make mistakes later on, when they're too costly, when it can for sure lead to depression. Remember, children are resilient. You can snub them today and they can bounce back. But as you grow older, your ego also starts getting bigger and bigger. One of the social reasons for anger, for irritability, for anxiety and depression. The problems we face as adults has nothing to do with the heights of syllabus in the school that the teacher is talking mountains or oceans or atlas. Life skills are like handling rejections, adaptability, self-worth. When children are taught resilience and self-worth at a young age, it will be the greatest lesson for them to take through life. I repeat once, I think most of us are parents here. That's the biggest service you can do to your child. But we are not training our children in handling failures. We are all programmed for success. So we need training for handling failures. And also when we are teaching these things to the children, remember, we need to make rules and boundaries to the children, that if you cross the rules and if you cross the boundaries, these are the consequences that are going to be delivered by us to you. This way the child is aware that if I make a mistake, this is what my mom is going to say, and he's not going to feel sad. Remember, our rules need to come first, and the inevitable misbehavior that we give to the child needs to come second. Because if we don't do that, your child will keep pushing you, looking for that wall, or pulling you like an elastic, not knowing when it's going to break. So when you make your rules, be explicit, explain to the child, and also tell the child that when you break the rules, this is what you are likely to forfeit. Okay? So any consequence that is delivered to the child seems fair to the child, and chances of the child feeling angry or sad are less. Be kind, be compassionate. We all know that, without conditions in every season. This is important. Unconditional love, unconditional friendship. How many people have we helped without knowing them or expecting them something in return? Don't have to tell me, just tell yourself. I think I've spoken a lot. I hope people are not bored. And
very
of course,
interesting.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. They're also about the 4 kinds of the happy hormones. I think you people all would be knowing about it. The oxytocin, the serotonin, the dopamine. See, we have the dopamine, we have oxytocin, we have endorphin, we have serotonin. Now, what is these 4 hormones are extremely important, the chemicals, to keep ourselves happy and in good control of ourselves. Now, what is dopamine? It's a reward chemical, like eating food or expecting that you're going to be treated for a good food, achieving a goal, getting good sleep is very, very important. Having a bath. Now, this is dopamine. Now, what is oxytocin? We need that. All of us. It's a love hormone. Socializing, talking to friends, connections, physical touch, animals, petting animals, helping others. When we do these things, the level of oxytocin increases. Serotonin, the mood stabilizers, sitting in the sun, mindfulness, nature walks. You know from where we get the maximum serotonin? 95% of the serotonin that is made in our body comes from the gut. So eating good food is extremely, extremely important. Then is endorphin, the painkiller. Exercising, laughing, listening to music, dancing. You know, in my counseling practice, whenever anybody like who's low and who visits me, I always ask them that why don't you go for jogging? Because when you jog, you're going to perspire. When you perspire from the pores of your skin, another hormone is going to be secreted, which is called endorphin. And when endorphin is secreted from your body naturally, it leads to a feeling of euphoria. Now, anything that we do naturally takes a longer time. So you need to be patient. Another thing that I would just like to say, the role of vitamins that play in our mood. Vitamin B plays an important role in mood stabilization. Magnesium, calcium are also great in calming our nervous system. Research says a decrease in vitamin B12, I repeat, vitamin B12 correlates with an increase in depression. So always get your B12 tested. Again, B12 is not an antidepressant. It is a supplement. It will only help you. It will not do the role of an antidepressant. And I don't prescribe medicines because I don't have the license. I'm not a doctor like Dr. Simiji. I do counseling, but many times I tell my clients that please, I think you need medication as well. Go to your doctor or go to a psychiatrist. Now for serotonin, you need to be having fiber-rich plant food. Plant food is really good for serotonin. That's about all the questions people would like to ask. I'd love to answer them.
Thanks a lot, Rajshree, for such a lovely session. It's so meaningful. It was so meaningful and knowledgeable. You know, it reminded me of Chichore, a movie by Sushant Rajput.
Yeah,
right?
Absolutely,
When you said
absolutely.
that, when you said that, you have nobody teaches them to face failures, right? Everybody is teaching them to
programmed for success,
to be success, right? So, and I really liked it the way you said that, it's communication and expression that is very important to build a good relation, right? And when you build a good relation, then obviously your mental health is very good, right?
Also, Ayush, one thing I'd like to tell everybody, that in depression, what is in very simple, basic language I'm speaking, okay, your mind is not your best friend, because your mind is giving you signals, negative energy. So I always tell people that don't spend time with yourself. Don't do anything solitary. Involve yourself with 1 or 2 people. You don't have to go in a group, because you're going to get left out. You won't be able to make conversations. So choose 1 or 2 or 3 people and talk to them. You'll feel better, because then you not concentrate on your own problems. Sorry. Yes, Ayush.
Absolutely. No, so there are a lot of questions that come to my mind, but I'm sure the audience also have a lot of questions.
Please.
So Prince, you would want to ask, you have a question over there. Can we have Prince on the call? Okay, I think
he's not connected. Also, we are running a bit short on time.
Okay, so Neeraj, you have any questions?
Thank you for wonderful insights. I think since mental wellness is all about the way we act and think, what we don't realize, it's such a profound thing that our career, our financials, our mental, our success stories, our being social life, our leadership is all around our mental wellness. I mean, that's why CEOs are given this training to be able to deal with all this. One of the worries that I have is, because we all come from the corporate world and globalized world, is, 40, 50 years ago, we used to have this big pandemic in the world called hunger, and people would die of hunger and food. Going forward, it's about loneliness. And the world is going to be so much lonely. Loneliness is going to be, I think, personally, a big thing. So, I don't know why. One question is, I don't know why we have this, and Dr. Simi, maybe I can ask you this question is, ये जो एक proverb है बचपन से सुना है, do what makes you happy, do what makes you happy, do what makes you happy. And a lot of times happiness is such a transient feeling. And, and it lasts for like gratification, lasts for a little bit more. What would you say to make it more deeper, more meaningful, and just not keep doing things for happiness?
So that's a difficult question. Maybe you should ask all these gurus these questions. So, but but I think usually what happens is that it's been seen that people, as they grow older, usually become more satisfied with their lives. And like I said, one of the studies that has been done, or long-term study on people following them over the years, also showed that people who were likely to have better mental health and were more happy had better social connections. I think there's something, when people are young, they have a lot of dissatisfaction, they have a lot of questions, they question everything. And that is what is required at that age. I mean, that is the age that people start revolutions, they lead revolutions. But over time, Erik Erikson was a person who, spoke about stages in life and how at a particular, in middle age, you kind of reach a stage of generativity versus stagnation. So generativity doesn't necessarily mean generating more resources, but it also meant investing in the future generation, helping the future generation, not only your own children, but even other people. So it doesn't necessarily mean that single people cannot have generativity, but they can also be generative. And that helps, because if you're investing in the younger generation, in guiding them in some way. I have a lot of single friends who do that in their own ways. Some of them are teachers, some of them are doctors, or even housewives for that matter. I mean, who are single now. So helping them along is one thing, and that generativity in middle age is something that we all can strive for. So that helps maybe in getting more satisfaction and happiness, and not really being exuberant or ebullient all the time. So, but just briefly, clinical depression and anxiety is something that people don't recognize, like they recognize other illnesses. And that's something we need to start educating the younger people about, so that they're more open to going and seeking help for it. I mean, it should not be a stigma.
Thank you so much. I think Piyush wants to ask something, Ayush. I can see.
Piyush has a question.
Just before that, I'll ask the question that Prince asked. He's not on the chat, but I'll still ask it on his behalf. So he asked that how do we deal with people who abuse the help we offer? So there have been instances where, say, we reach out to people to help them out of their misery, but they turn out to be abusing us back to what we do for them. So how do we deal with such a situation?
So I think over here also one needs to keep in mind that, why are you helping someone? And if you are helping someone, what have you, if you really want to help someone where you feel you don't want to be abused, then identify a proper NGO or identify a proper person who needs that assistance or help, so that you don't end up feeling that you're being used. But at the same time, if it does happen, I think, just take it in your stride. If your intention is to go out and help people, yes, be careful. It's not nice to end up giving the money to someone who doesn't really need it or abuses it. But if it happened, it's just like, you could have had a loss in the share market. You could have had a bad relationship. So it's like, one of those things that maybe you can learn from and move on.
Okay, thank you.
I think Piyush.
Yes, sir. Thanks, Nira. I am Piyush from Pune. So I have two specific questions. One is related to Indian household or individual level. So it took a pandemic to start the talk about mental health, and it took a celebrity society to build a conversation about depression in Indian household. So why is that stigma, and why is that current state? Second is regarding community or state. So what started in Britain, appointing the process of Minister of appointing the Ministry of Happiness, and the trend has been followed in UAE, in Germany, Canada, Australia. So what we have in India is just a Mental Health Care Act 2017, more or less extension of 1982. Why is that so? As a state, have we failed our responsibility of starting the discussion about mental health? Thank you.
Piyush, you said very rightly, first of all, we have a lack of mental health resources. We have a real shortage of psychiatrists. Even if we produce, a huge number of psychiatrists every year, we will still not reach what other countries have for the next 100 years. So we only have around 9,000 psychiatrists in India. A lot of them end up leaving the country and going abroad. We have very few clinical psychologists, psychosocial workers. Our government spends a minuscule amount on health, less than Nepal and Bangladesh. And this is what election should be fought on. And mental health budget out of that is only 1.6%. So unless the budget increases, I don't see much hope for much. But along with that, the Mental Health Care Act 2018, 2017 is quite different from the earlier Mental Health Care Act. And there are going to be a lot of problems in the future because we really don't have the manpower to deal with the severe mental illnesses and even milder mental illnesses. The suicide rate among young people is alarming in India. And that is, even though suicide is underreported in India. So, it's just something that maybe a lot of NGOs are now working on it because they realize that not enough is being done in the field. So there are people talking about it much more. And I think the pandemic also started this conversation. And Sushant Rajput's suicide, unfortunately, see, people die of suicide just like they die of heart attacks. So some suicides are inevitable, but yes, a lot of them can be prevented, just like heart attacks can be prevented. So I think it's good, at least the conversation has started, and let's just continue it and build up on it.
We also have a question from Matthews. Would you like to unmute and ask it?
Yes.
Matthews, sir.
Matthews is here. I can see somewhere he's here.
Okay, so he's asking.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Matthews.
Hi, I'm come on, yeah. We as an organization that just kind of started pretty much on the dime, so to say, and less than about a month old, are now able we have about 200 volunteers throughout India. We are now able to deal just within our Dosa community, people who have lost breadwinners, fathers, mothers, and all that. And we are, the volunteers are having to deal with it. What are some of the guidance you would have for them? And the second part of that is, as this goes on, it will take an emotional toll on our volunteers. What is your suggestion to deal with that? And what are some of the resources available for it? How can we plan for this down the line?
So a lot of, there are a lot of resources. Some of them are available on the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention website. So I'm just posting one of them. And this one is to deal with grief, but there are many for psychosocial counseling and how to do that, how to help adolescents, how to look after your own mental health. And all these can be beneficial because yes, you're right. A lot of people have dealt with a lot of losses and grief, even in the hospital. Today only a nurse was talking about how it's so difficult to see people who are 30 years old lose their lives, and especially once they spend a few days in the hospital in the ICU, and you're hoping that the person is going to pull out of it, and then you lose them. So there are resources for healthcare workers, for other people who are kind of helping. I've just posted one of them over here. So similarly, the CDC has others as well. There's one called Providing Spiritual and Psychosocial Support to People with COVID-19 at Home. And there's one for adolescents' well-being during COVID-19, mental health and coping during COVID-19. So these are just some of the resources that are there. In fact, a lot of countries have released their own resources as well. For example, the ICMR in India has released a few of its own. So I think maybe one can go through these. And the main thing is, again, to talk to people, to be there for them, maybe set up a support group, or maybe have a Zoom meeting with them, just to see if there are some people who are going through some issues, and talking to them about it. For example, my sister is a clinical psychologist in the US, and she was called to have a meeting for these people in Delhi who are picking up bodies of people who have died of COVID at home, and no one is coming there to help people pick up the bodies. So then we had a Zoom meeting with those men and their family members, their wives, who are also, supportive, but then they go through their own stress. So I've just posted some of the links here. I hope they help.
Thank you, Dr. Simi. I think now we are running out of time. One last question, if there is any, we can take one last question.
There is one.
Yes, Sandeep. Sandeep, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I enjoyed the conversation that we had. If Rajshree Madam is there, Rajshree Madam is
Yes,
there,
I'm there.
I had, my question was for her. Okay. So you mentioned about the styles of parenting, coercive parenting, submissive parenting, etc. That's very interesting perspective. My question was, for the children of like a teenage age group, right? How do we kind of motivate them for how do we make them aware about the competition that exists out there, and don't want to really push them, but what are the tools available to kind of steer them in the right direction to be ready for that competition and start really like preparing for that as a parent?
Good question. Yes, because there's a thin line in pushing your child and motivating the child. The simple thing is your child will do what you do. So if you're going to be anxious and you're going to be telling the child that he must do it, he must study hard, and if he doesn't, he'll fall, that's going to fall flat. Providing him with tools, providing him with extra help, spending time with him while he's studying and not being involved with him in his activities is going to take him far away. Number two, you have to understand the unspoken needs of your child. Many times, adolescent children are embarrassed to tell their parents or the teachers that we don't understand science, but we're doing science because that's what you're supposed to do. That's what my parents want me to do. So they don't even ask questions. You will get the glimpse, if you're an involved parent, how your child is working or studying. If from that, you will be able to provide him either better services. Sermonizing alone is not going to be enough.
Okay. Yep.
Yes, giving him tools, giving him extra classes, helping him out, studying with him, or if you can't study with him, providing him with that kind of an atmosphere in the house is going to help.
Okay, thank you.
For example, if he's watching the TV, very often the parents say, oh my God, again watching the TV, why don't you study? So a timetable has to be made for the child.
Makes sense, yeah, sure.
A timetable goes a long way from being intelligent and being super intelligent. Children who make it to IITs are perhaps as intelligent as other children who got 91, 92, 89. But the major difference between them is how they work smart, they handle their timetable, they have fun. We can't treat education as punishment. It has to be, the child needs to be driven after a point that he needs to be doing it for himself. If he needs to uplift his standard, if he wants his dreams or aspirations to be fulfilled, he needs to be doing it for himself, not for the parents.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I'll share that.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Rajshree. What you said is again about discipline. right? Putting yourself into a discipline and a routine by way of timetable. Very nice. I wish we could go on, but time is against us. Thank you so much. I would request Neeraj sir to give a vote of thanks for a wonderful session. Over to you, Neeraj sir.
Thank you, Ayush, and thank you, Dr. Simi and Rajshree Sarda ji and Guneet. Wonderful insights. You know, we have all kind of challenges amongst us, being parent, being oneself a subject to all this going on. Well, I've got a habit of reciting 2-3 lines of poetry. आज की जिंदगी में जो हम बात कर रहे हैं उसमें आप कुछ बताएं कि कहते हैं ना कि लोग इतने परेशान हो गए इतने कि ख्वाहिशों के बोझ में दोस्त तो क्या क्या कर रहा है इतना तो जीना भी नहीं जितना तो मर रहा है. So, you know, we are tending sometimes to push ourselves beyond what is meaningful and things like that. But thank you so much. We will archive all this and it'll go on. It has gone on media and you know, we're lovely to have this unique session of mental wellness that is not just for the emotional part of it. I always say your career, your journey, your leadership, what are you going to do in life is all around this penthouse here. And thank you so much for giving us insights and tools. Have a lovely evening and thank you once again. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Guneet. Thank you, everybody. Thanks a lot.